Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Canadian Pioneer. Our content is only available on Rumble. You can further follow us on X for updates. This channel is a place for all patriots to discuss and analyze events that affect Canadians, and to offer hope in the face of all the craziness in the world today. Hit follow on our channel to be notified when our next video drops. Today, we're going to discuss the latest politically driven liberal gun control measures. As per usual, going after the easy target, legal firearm owners. Even if you're not a firearm owner, it is important to look at the how, and the why, they push fear-driven laws to advance their agendas. So why does a government end up controlling and seizing a populace's legally owned firearms? Besides it being a political stunt, there are many examples throughout history of authoritarian governments confiscating firearms. Such as on December 10, 1918, the Soviet Union mandated for what they said was to the benefit of the entire population. They made their citizens turn in their firearms, and failure to do so led to criminal prosecution. While Joseph Stalin was in power, he murdered millions of people, and millions more were sentenced to labor camps in the gulags. The Chinese and North Korean communist governments also banned and confiscated firearms from their citizens, only allowing the state to have firearms. Now these communist nations are among some of the most authoritarian regimes in the world today. Now, you'd hope that this isn't the end goal for Canada, but there is no doubt governments have been steadily increasing their grip over many aspects in the Western world in areas besides lawful gun ownership. Things such as internet and social media censorship continue to happen, with the government recently passing a bill in Canada to control the content that they think is best for you to see. They throw around terms such as misinformation and accuse you of being extreme for views they don't agree with. They enacted an emergency act and froze bank accounts of protesters who disagreed with their handling of the pandemic, and how they deny forcing people to take the shot. But if people didn't, they would have lost their jobs and their livelihoods. Now let's look at how Justin Trudeau and the Liberals pushed their latest gun control laws. As per standard left-wing tactics, Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party were lying in wait for a tragedy to occur, and in this case immediately after the Nova Scotia mass casualty attack that happened on April 18, 2020. When something so horrible occurs, they don't wait for the facts, they know they need to act while people are upset, emotional, and questioning what happened. This allows them to step in as if they have the solution, when realistically it is far from one. They were so eager to push the legislation that even the head of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police at the time, Commissioner Brenda Lucki, was caught on audio recording by one of her subordinates. On the audio she is heard questioning the investigators of the Nova Scotia tragedy why they hadn't provided the models of the firearms used by the perpetrator, a request coming from government officials, even though this raised concerns about integrity of the then ongoing investigation.
Does anybody realize what's going on in the world of handguns and guns right now? The fact that they're in the middle of trying to get a legislation going, the fact that that legislation is supposed to actually help police, and the fact that the very little information I asked to be put in speaking notes.
On May 1, 2020, 2 weeks after the tragedy, Justin Trudeau announced an immediate ban on 1,500 types of what he referred to as assault-style firearms. As you can see, they had pages, and pages, and pages, prepared for their ban list. Trudeau wanted to sound like he was doing something outstanding by stating 1,500 types were banned, but of course, he failed to mention the list included things like mortars and cannons, things that were already illegal. Just another one of many examples that this was a political stunt. Further, Bill C-21 was then introduced in the House of Commons on February 16, 2021. At the time, the then Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino said the Liberals were committed to go further than any government in the history of this country when it came to gun control. Bill C-21 now had many other firearms included, including all handguns, along with many other rifles that are used regularly for hunting. C-21 is so broad and ludicrous that it even looks like it'll put bans on toys, such as airsoft and paintball guns, as they will fall under the legislation as replicas. On December 15, 2023, the Liberal-controlled Senate officially made Bill C-21 law. Now, with all this over-the-top politically driven legislation pushed through, the Liberals failed to tell you that the firearms used by the perpetrator in Nova Scotia were all illegally obtained, smuggled from the U.S. Further, the perpetrator didn't even have a firearms license to purchase or possess firearms. A CBC from this May 1, 2020 article states that illegal smuggling over the Canada-US border is the source of untold thousands of firearms floating around the country, and that the U.S. is the source of anywhere from 70 to 99% of the guns used in the commission of crimes in Canada. The federal government has failed to record any real meaningful stats on the matter, though, a stat you'd think would be important, and you'd want to know before making further laws against lawful gun owners. Have a listen to Chris Lewis during this CTV segment regarding his thoughts on the passing of the recent bill.
Bill C-21 passed the Senate by a vote of 60 to 24 without changes yesterday. This legislation includes measures to impose a freeze on the sale, purchase, or transfer of handguns in Canada, tighten laws to include provisions related to a gun owner posing a risk to themselves or others, and a prospective technical definition of what constitutes a prohibited assault-style firearm. For a reaction to this bill, we're joined by CTV public safety analyst and former OPP Commissioner Chris Lewis. Chris, it's great to have you on. We appreciate it. And given your background in public safety, I'd love to first know, what's your reaction?
I don't really see this as a huge benefit, Michelle. I mean, anything that helps is good. And some of the issues within this around increased sentencing, which of course had been reduced by the same government at one point, but they've increased it again. That's good. But really the sale, possession of licensed legal handgun owners, that's not a threat in this country, never has been. The assault-style weapon issue is a bit of a confusing thing to most, but assault rifles have been banned in Canada for years. And then some of the issues within it around red flag laws are already covered in the criminal code. May have increased the ability to do it a bit, which is a good thing, but gangbangers out there are not concerned at all about this legislation. It would not have prevented the Nova Scotia shooting. It wouldn't even prevented the murder of 3 people in Sault Ste. Marie a couple of weeks ago, because it was all illegally owned guns, not legally licensed and sold and purchased guns in Canada.
Well, that is interesting. It has been described by the Trudeau government as a game-changing bill. You know, they've committed to going further than any government in the history of this country on gun control. Why take these measures then?
It's politics. It's just absolutely politics. And you know, from a very apolitical perspective, I'm not a gun guy. I don't even own a gun anymore. I carried one for 36 years and that's it. But this is really hurting those legal gun owners out there that are sport shooters and hunters, and they obey the rules and they're not a threat to public safety. In the meantime, they're saying, look at us, we're cracking down on violence and you know, and gun crime. But if you look at the gun crime in the city of Toronto that's occurred over the last several years, none of this will impact that, because those are illegal guns coming from the States. So to say this is a game changer and this is just so comprehensive is just not accurate in my view. But you know, that's the call of the government of the day, and they've made it, so we have to live with it. But I don't think it's going to be a real success story at all.
Well, this is definitely a divisive bill, and your thoughts are kind of in line with the Conservative leader who had said that this legislation targets law-abiding gun owners. What would you like to see in terms of legislation on guns in this country?
It does impact law-abiding gun owners, so why change that? Canada's got very efficient, very rigid gun laws, so why change that? What we really need to do is not so much a legislative issue, it's using the legislation we have and really fighting the import of handguns illegally into this country and deal with the underlying issues that drive people to guns and gangs and those lifestyles. And that's poverty, it's education, it's access to education and good jobs, it's mental health, it's addiction issues. Those are the things we need to put our time and money on, and not buying back a bunch of guns off people that have legally owned them for years. That doesn't make sense to me at all. Before
I let you go, Chris, why do you think we've had such trouble stopping the guns at the border?
we're not putting the effort into it and the resources that we need to. The RCMP, who are a major player in international smuggling issues, are really cut to the quick. They don't have the people, they don't have the money. But, we're spending lots of money. It's a political statement for sure, but we're spending lots of money to help other countries, and that's all wonderful. But we need to do a lot in our own country and spend money in the right places to try and deal with this issue, and we're not.
Mr. Chris Lewis provided many valid points, and it was great that CTV allowed him to make these comments. Justin Trudeau and the Liberals' politically driven rhetoric against lawful gun ownership, meanwhile staying mainly silent and turning a blind eye on gun smugglers and the gangs committing the vast majority of gun crime. Take a look at this August 22, 2022 article from the Vancouver Sun that states that 1 in 3 homicides in British Columbia are gang-related. Perhaps all this time and money Justin Trudeau used against people that already follow the law would have been better spent on stronger enforcement of the many laws that already exist, to target actual criminals. Now, my friends, the outlook for a change of government on the horizon is promising. A government that has faith and trust in its law-abiding citizens is a rarity these days. But Conservative Party Member of Parliament Rachel Thomas just posted this on X, that their government would repeal Bill C-21. The leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, also sees through the political stunt, saying Trudeau's senators are going after the trained and tested, law-abiding Canadians instead of the gangs and gun smugglers. If you appreciate your freedoms, even if you're not a firearm owner, it's important to understand that this is usually only the beginning. Hit the rumble on this video and follow the channel so you'll be notified of the next video we drop before Justin Trudeau and his high command attempt to send it down the memory hole. Have a great day, everyone. God bless.